What's up, Internet? You're tuned to episode 172 of Nintendo Noise, Flipscreen Games' weekly Nintendo podcast. I'm your host, Pete and Bessie, joined today by my very good friend and co-host, Mr. Chuy Plays.
Goodbye.
Welcome
Bringing
back.
it back to the originals.
Oh my god, I know, the boys are back. It's good to have you back, buddy. It's been a minute.
I know, it's been so long. I was really happy I caught you that other day just on my lunch walk and we could chat for a while. That was great.
Yeah, I know. It was nice to catch up for the first time in a while. You've been busy. You've been moving and all kinds. You know, you're always moving.
Yeah. What else was new? No, it's been busy, and also I don't know. Last year was also kind of like a quiet. Let's wait for Nintendo to do something interesting kind of year, you know. So
Definitely, yeah.
So I just become a little recluse, and I'm like, now's my only chance to catch up on all these games that I haven't played.
Well, I'm hoping we'll have a chance on the back half of the show to talk about some of those games that you were playing. But if not, you're going to be a more regular fixture on the show again this year, so we'll definitely have a chance to catch up. Because I know the folks, they've been wanting to have you on to talk about Splatoon. They got questions about Animal Cross. So, we got plenty of conversation to get into, as you grace us with your presence again this year. But today, we got to start with, the big headline, right? Of course, Nintendo, the classic Nintendo Noise curse. The day after an episode is recorded, they announce Nintendo Switch 2 Direct, baby. We got a date. Here's where all the... It's okay, great. We love that. So, about 7 days ago, Nintendo announced that we were going to get our next Nintendo Switch 2 Direct coming on April 2nd. That's a Wednesday. It's going to be at 6 a.m. Pacific for all you California folks, 9 a.m. for us on the East Coast, and a more reasonable time for everywhere else in the world.
That's me. I'm in the 6 a.m. crowd, and I saw that time and I was like, great, I am not ready for this.
It's like, I better set my Nintendo alarmo.
I know, which I never even got one. Did you get one?
No, I really thought about it, but then as soon as they got to the it doesn't work if you have a bed that's for two people, I was like, well,
Yeah, that was my biggest thing with it too, because I was like, I get up earlier than Jackie gets up.
She doesn't need that in her life.
Yeah, she doesn't want that. I don't want to ruin whatever happens. So, yeah. But yeah, no, of course, they're always announcing things right after you record. I can't even believe that it was only that recently. I feel like it's been an eon. Like I'm waiting, so I just want it to happen today.
I know when you and I were chatting offline today. You were like, "Oh man, only 57 more days." Like you already got the day countdown,
right? Yeah, it's ridiculous.
So I want to talk about this Direct because obviously, you and I we're both excited. We've both been ready for this console for about 2 years now. So any piece of information is something we're ready to talk about. But I am interested in what you think this event is going to look like, right? Because I'm trying to... I spent some time this week going back and looking at the initial Nintendo Switch reveal and then that second event where they actually talked about, specs and we got into the nitty-gritty of it all, right? And trying to kind of read the tea leaves on what did we already learn at the initial reveal? What would then make sense to show us in a follow-up Direct that is going to happen the same week as the Nintendo Switch 2 experiences are starting to happen, right? This is on the 2nd. The first in-person event is in New York on the 4th, 2 days later. And that kind of lines up with what happened with the original Switch, right? They had that press event in January. That was the same week as when you could actually get your hands on the console, and that was when they had the press event and the reveal, the big reveal event, and then 2 months later we had the thing on store shelves. So it's it does make you wonder,
It could be quick. So I remember that first press event. I was actually in DC when they were having the dates there. Unfortunately, I was also leaving that day, and I was like, could I fit this in? Could I get there? And see the Switch in person. And then in the end, I was like, you know what? I'll be too stressed at the airport if I do this.
Yeah.
So I didn't do it. And I was like, I don't know. I think at that point, that was one of the later ones, and it was maybe a month out before the Switch. So I decided not to. But I will say I got some redemption because I did get into the LA one this time around.
I am
So
so jealous. I did not get in. I want to go so bad.
I I got so lucky. So I signed up on my regular account. I have a couple of friends in the area who are also their shared account. We share our like Switch Online family plan, right? And I signed up with all three of us. We were all excited to go. And then after sitting there for a little bit, I was like, you know what? I've got the second account. I'm just going to throw that one in there just in case, like we don't get in. Lo and behold, main account, nothing. Second account's the one that gets in. And I was like, hey guys, good news, bad news. Good news, I'm going. Bad news, you're not. I felt kind of bad, but what can you do? Nintendo's been hooking it up for me lately, though, because I also got into that play test, the one that
I
like
know,
goes
you've
in
been
like
so
2
lucky.
seconds.
You're a lucky,
Yeah,
lucky boy.
yeah. All that said, okay. So as far as like what I think this will look like, I think what I want it to look like is like I want them to do like a live stage show kind of thing, kind of like that first one where they showed off that Switch, the Switch, the original Switch, Switch One. Is that what we're going with now? Switch One.
I guess,
Um, yeah.
yeah.
I want it to look a little bit more like that, a little bit more like over the top, like let's do something. But I think Nintendo's at a different point. Like at that point, like they needed something. They needed some sort of win. They needed to show people that they were like confident in what they were putting out and, have like third party support and all that sort of thing. This
It's
time,
it's very interesting that like the first time it very much felt like they had something to prove, and now
yeah.
they have something to prove, but it's a different thing. It's like before it was like we got to prove that we can be cool. Now it's like you got to prove that you can like replicate success, which is such a different marketing problem.
Yeah. And I mean, I get the vibe that Nintendo's not like a keep up with the other companies kind of company, like they're always doing their own thing. But I do think in this sense, it's a little bit like they are probably feeling a little bit of the pressure of getting like phased out with their tech, at least like they're behind the times there. They're not quite as powerful, and they're starting to see it, especially like last year and this year, like a lot of the games that maybe would have been coming to Switch at the same time a few years ago. Now it's like, no, the Switch can't run this. Like we're beyond that. So I do think they need to at least like match that level, and they're probably feeling that. But outside of that, like I think this is going to kind of look like a standard direct. Standard in the sense of like a little bit more familiar in terms of like headlines and stuff. Maybe we'll have like some of the spokespeople come out and say some things and introduce it. I always remember, is it Koizumi who came out looking like a magician, snapped his fingers, and then he's like, here's the Switch, right? I always love that moment. I'd love to see him magician it up. Literally, when he walked out, I was like, oh, he looks like a magician. I love that.
Yeah, it's like it's very interesting because I feel like so much of the marketing around the initial Switch reveal was about like talking to you about what the Nintendo Switch is, whereas like that's obviously not a problem this time around. So I think like
Yeah.
it is interesting to think like, is it going to be more focused on, talking about some of the tech rumors that we've heard, like talking about some of the like capabilities of the hardware, or is it going to be like very focused on software? And is it going to be very focused on like the thing that's going to make you jump ship is that there are great games that you want to play that you can't play on your Switch, right?
Yeah.
But all the games that you already own, backwards compatibility, all that stuff. Because it's like, that continuity of the audience is like their big concern, right? Is like keeping people from the Switch into the Switch 2 and like getting that, like keeping that Nintendo account active, right? And like not having any lapse between the success of the Switch and the Switch 2.
Yeah, and I don't think they're strangers to that kind of like struggle where they're like, this is obviously a continuation of the Switch. It's kind of like the next level up. And it's not the first time we've seen that from Nintendo, but I think they're coming at it. They're going to come at it pretty aggressively to try to like match the success, if not exceed it. Because like the DS, for example, still did Switch recently pass it as the second best selling
Not
console?
yet. DS
Not
is at
quite yet.
154 and
Okay,
Switch
okay.
just passed 150. So I think the kind of, if Nintendo's predictions are correct, they should pass it this year and then potentially pass the PS2 as well.
I think they'll pass it with a price drop for sure. But that said, like the DS, the 3DS didn't quite perform quite as well. Wii U obviously did not perform as well as the Wii, and so like their follow-up consoles, like there's a bit of a dip, and I
Yeah,
think
there's
they
a
want to
precedent for that,
avoid
right?
that.
Game Boy to Game
Yeah.
Boy Advance had the same problem, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I don't know. I think they're gonna want to overcome that in some way. I don't know exactly how, but I do think they're gonna try to do something special with this hardware. Obviously, there's like the mouse functionality that everybody's been speculating was basically confirmed with the little mouse scrolly thing in that little trailer that they showed. I was like,
Yeah.
okay,
And then
it
there's
feels
the
believable.
all the patent stuff as well. It's like it does seem like there's some fire there.
Yeah, yeah. So I kind of wonder if they're going to approach this hardware in a really new way. Because that's the thing that I've been looking for specifically. Like, what is the new kind of like gameplay gimmick that
And
The Switch 2 is bringing?
and I'm glad you brought that up. This is something I was talking about. I don't remember if it was last week or 2 weeks ago, but I was talking about it with Jack, I think, and like this idea that like because there isn't a new gameplay gimmick or like a new
Hmm.
like hardware centric gimmick, that like maybe this is a time where you see them uh double down a little bit more on things like performance or services or like improving online, because it's like part of the third party rumors, right, that we talked about a couple weeks ago,
Hmm.
was that like a lot of the big games that have been announced are like games with a heavy online component, like something like Tekken or like Halo Master Chief Collection. And it's like, if there's truth to that, maybe that is the focus, right? Is like, hey, like we didn't reinvent the wheel on Switch 2. So what we're going to do is look at like what are the top things that people talk about like would make the Switch better, right? And it's like better online functionality, drop in
Hmm.
friend codes, like all those, like overhauling the eShop. Like maybe that is what they're going to focus on this time around, because there wasn't that, need to go back to the drawing board on like how are we going to reinvent, the control scheme this time around, or what's the gimmick in terms of like this major graphical shift, or like adding, a third dimension, and it's like there's always been this kind of like titanic shift between the
Yeah.
consoles. And this is the first time that they've ever really tried to just do the like, not totally the first time, but like
Hmm.
they've never done a two, right? Like they've never done a like,
Yeah, that's true.
we're intentionally inviting the comparison that this is the same thing but bigger and better. And like how Nintendo's going to communicate that, I think, is interesting, because it's not a way they've ever chosen to tackle marketing before, really, except for like the Super Nintendo, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think you're totally spot on too, just like mentioning the online component. One, I'm very happy that they confirmed both physical and digital games will be backwards compatible. So that to me says like, oh, I'm going to be able to download whatever I've downloaded. There's
Yeah.
probably and I'd been getting this suspicion ever since they kind of like rebranded their online marketplace. It's like the My Nintendo stuff. I was like, oh, okay, this tells me, at least in my world, I was like, oh, I feel like we're probably gonna just have like the games that we've purchased. They're gonna save that to our account. They know it. We'll probably be able to re-download that. So glad that's confirmed at least. But even beyond that, for some reason, I'm still playing Splatoon 3. But I deleted it the other day just because of how frustrated I was with like the online in general. Because I was just like, okay, I'm playing these games. It, I'm trying to get my score higher and, be one of the best people in the world. I'm not. I'm like Anyways, so that the objective is win 3 before you lose 3 in the X rank, right? And so many games, I would get to like the very end, it's showing me kind of like the win screen or something, and then all of a sudden I just like get randomly dropped. And then the win doesn't count. It doesn't count as a lose,
Oh, that's
luckily.
really
But like
frustrating.
at that point, I'm just like, it's like you don't want me to prove how good I am at this thing. And so I, out of frustration, I deleted the game for like a week, and I was just like, "Fix it, Nintendo. Get your online working properly for once." So
And it's long overdue, right? And the idea that like maybe this generation is the opportunity to focus on some of those things because you're not spending as much time and R&D cost on figuring out the new thing, you know?
yeah, yeah, and we do know. I've mentioned it before. They're building a new building. It's all going to be like dev people that they're hiring. So they're growing those teams. They're actively on track to like grow their teams quite a bit. I mean, I don't know when it's going to happen, but I do think that has to do a lot with like if you look at like the top 10 games that on like the Switch, the top 10 sales, like a lot of those really got hit with like DLC stuff. Like Nintendo's actively looking at the games that are selling a lot, the games that are being played a lot, and saying like, oh, we should make DLC for these. And to me, they're probably thinking, oh, this is an opportunity. Like, what if we approach this as kind of more of a live service? The 3-month updates, the every 3-month updates for Splatoon 3, they got feedback loud and clear that players were like, this isn't enough. Like, it's coming out too slow. Animal Crossing obviously got hit with that, where people were like, this should be updating a lot more. And then all of a sudden the update stopped as well, and people are like, why did you stop updating this game? So I think they've gotten plenty of feedback that tells them they should be actively like working on these games and growing them, and keeping that player base kind of alive.
Yeah, I mean, especially for an online game like Splatoon, it's, we know how important that is. If you want to have a game like that be healthy and maintain its player base, it's like it needs to have a constant stream of content, or it's it's gonna get lost in the shuffle.
Yeah, for sure.
So let's have some fun here. Let's do some predictions. You and I both came with some predictions for the Direct, because I think at this point I'm envisioning this as kind of the equivalent to that January event that we were talking about, right? Where this is going to be the one where they lay their cards on the table. We get, probably most or all of the big questions that we're looking to get answered. And then we start kind of the march towards release date. That's kind of what I'm envisioning. Are you on the same page with me on that?
Oh, for sure.
All right, cool. So then we both, we're going to shoot for 10. I know we both have in the neighborhood of like 10 to 15. And we'll see how much crossover there is between our predictions. Maybe we reduce it down to 5, but I want to, we love doing our predictions here. So let's, Chuy hasn't gotten to do it in a while. So let's, and because you're the returning competitor here, I'll let you go first.
Okay, good. Because I also want to sneakily establish a rule here too. Obviously, Mario Kart's going to be there. I don't think either of us should predict that.
Okay.
But
yeah, I think if it's something obvious like that, it should have to be like more like you should have to call your shot. Like if you wanted to say like Mario Kart will be announced as like a launch, like a day and date release game, I think that is acceptable. Whereas being like, they'll show Mario Kart, it's like, yeah, of course they will, you jerk.
Yeah, I think say something specific about what this Mario Kart is going to have, right?
Yeah.
No
softballs.
That's my first one. That's my first one.
That's your first one?
So Mario Kart, I think, is going to have kind of like an open world adventure story mode thing, a la Diddy Kong Racing.
Interesting.
Because that's why they're avoiding putting Diddy Kong Racing on the N64 NSO app, because they're like, we can't like spoil this surprise for this new Mario Kart. That's totally our original idea, never been done before. Because then everybody's going to call them out, and they're like, hey, Diddy Kong Racing did it.
Crash Team Racing did it too, the superior kart racer.
Uh, I mean, just give us all the kart racers. I really don't mind. But yeah, that's my specific guess. I think we're gonna get some cool adventure story mode thing for Mario Kart, which I'm calling Mario Kart 12, just to make it angry.
12? What?
Yes, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is Mario Kart 9.
Right.
Mario Kart Tour is
It's
Mario
10.
Kart
So why
10.
is this
And
12?
Mario Kart Live is Mario Kart 11.
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
So this is 12.
You're crazy, man.
I will be honest, I thought I considered it 11 for a long time, but after the DLC of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, I was like, it's a whole new game now. There's too many new tracks for it to not be its own game.
Fair enough. Okay. The first couple and the last couple are always the toughest. It's like which ones do you
Yeah.
want to get out in front of quickly, you know? Okay. All right. This is one I think is a slam dunk. Is Nintendo will reveal a Pro Controller 2.
Ooh, I like that.
Not necessarily called Pro Controller 2, but you know what I mean. It's going to be we'll get the successor to the Pro Controller.
Yeah. This doesn't have to be part of your predictions, but what do you feel they could improve with it?
I think there's probably a few things. I feel like the best things about it are like very much the battery life is really good, and I think that like the kind of simple like Xbox ripped off layout is something that I really like. Like it's a very nice standard controller, but I feel like it doesn't have a ton of personality. Like I think that like the Xbox and PlayStation controllers both like really have a sense of identity, and I feel like it feels like a cheap version of the Xbox controller. And like I don't know, I think I think the toughest thing about iterating on it in a way that feels super meaningful is that it has to have some level of parity with the Joy-Con.
Yeah.
So it's
sure.
like it can only really change so much. So I think the thing that I am envisioning being the most different is that it's going to be like when you compare the quality of like an Xbox 360 controller to the Xbox One to the Xbox, where it's just like the build quality is nicer. You know, it feels a little less light and flimsy. It has like a little more heft to it. It feels a little bit more, for lack of a better word, like a piece of like adult tech, in the same way that like the Switch 2 has like an overall like sleeker look. I think that's going to be kind of the vibe, is like, oh, this isn't just for kids anymore. It has that kind of energy to it. But like functionality wise, I don't imagine it'll be a ton different unless there is some new feature to the Joy-Con 2 that we're not aware of yet.
Yeah, for sure. I want them to like, I don't know, maybe get a little fancier with the rumble, make it the HD rumble, have that go through a little bit through more of the controller. And I don't know, maybe improve the triggers a little bit.
I think that's the Joy-Con problem, right? Is like that the fact that the triggers are all just like radial buttons is like, I do wish that was different, but I don't know that is that in the cards with like it needing to be like a Joy-Con.
Yeah, true. Okay, so I guess I'm up. I'm going to say this one before you steal it from me. I think it's time for Animal Crossing, baby.
Yeah, that was one of mine for sure. All right, so
had to take it.
You think just like new announcement, or do you think like we'll see footage, or?
I think we'll see a new Animal Crossing game. I think, because I was actually, obviously I look into Animal Crossing a lot, and I was pretty surprised to see that like work on New Horizons started like way back in 2013, like pretty early on. Maybe it was even 2012, after the Japanese release of New Leaf, which took about 6 months for us to actually get to. So yeah, I think they've been working on it for a while. That's the only explanation I could put around them like ending support for the game as early as they did, putting out that last update. So for me, I'm just like, yeah, they've been working on this. I think Splatoon 3 or I guess I feel like Splatoon 4 is less likely
Yeah, I mean,
than a
Splatoon
new
3
Animal Crossing.
was more recent, and I also think that like when you consider the fact that like Animal Crossing was such a huge,
Yeah.
like they gotta be eager for a next one. I think my only reservation about this is not that they wouldn't announce it, but like I feel like it's probably not a launch year game because every other Animal Crossing usually like it comes out within 2 to 3 years into the life cycle, and you got to imagine that they're gonna. It's interesting because it's like you would think, okay, we would want there to be more Nintendo Switch 2s on the market to before you put that game out, but at the same time, it's like, but that might be the game that actually gets people to jump over, right? Like,
yeah. I think they found that it like moves consoles really
clearly,
well.
right? This time
they
it
put out
did.
they put out the Horizon Switch too, and that one sold really well. So yeah, I don't know. I think because just looking at like what was the possible game, the big Nintendo games that they could put out, I think a 3D Zelda is a little less likely. I think a 3D Mario is very likely. We could talk about that later.
Which takes
but
me into my next prediction. A new 3D Mario is revealed as a launch title. I'm getting that one out there early, yeah, because I'm with you. I think it's time, right? For the same reasons that you just laid out about Animal Crossing. It's like, it's been a minute, right? Like, Odyssey was a launch title on the Switch, and we never got, aside from that, like, Luigi balloon mode that came, there was never
I totally
any.
forgot about that. And there's the VR thing, right?
Yeah, the Labo stuff. Yeah, but it's like, aside from like,
stuff.
one or two little random things, there wasn't really any post-launch support for that. So it's like, ostensibly, they've been working on a 3D Mario since then. So you would imagine that whatever that is it's probably ready. And it's like, we just got the new 2D Mario. The movie just happened. It's like Mario's like, not only is it we have a new console and you want to have a new Mario at the launch of the new console because that's a proven, method for success. I think it's also like Mario's having a moment right now, right? Like you want to get that game out.
For sure. They've got the movie. He's super popular. They got the theme parks. They've got basically everything but a game.
Yeah.
I mean, we got Wonder,
and that sold like crazy, right? Like that sold like it's already like 13 million units or whatever so far.
Yeah, and they're putting out RPGs. The Mario RPGs. Never in my life did I think they would put out so many. They put out like 3 in a year.
Yeah, and they all sold over 1 million copies. It's like
so Mario's in right now. They need a proper 3D game, so you're probably gonna get that one.
And also, that to me feels like the kind of game you're confident enough to have be a Switch 2 launch title as well.
Yeah, for sure. People are picking that up. Like when they pick up Nintendo consoles, it's like, oh, I got to try that new Mario game. I got to try that new Zelda. And luckily, Animal Crossing's moved into that point too. I think a lot of people look at Nintendo for those. So
yeah, I would say Animal Crossing is like right up there. To me, it's like Mario Kart, if you want to count that as its own thing, which I think you probably should.
Yeah.
Pokemon, Animal Crossing are like, sure. For sales wise, they're kind of the big four. Zelda only just squeaked into that recently,
Yeah, for sure. Okay. Well, you stole my Mario one. But I'll go to my next one. I think they're making a Ring Fit Adventure 2.
Oh, I love that. I hope you're right. I love Ring Fit Adventure.
Yeah, because I keep thinking about obviously the new Joy-Con and stuff. They work with magnets. They're a little bigger. I'm like, that doesn't connect to my current Ring-Con. Like, this seems like one of those games that's not going to be compatible with Switch 2. So they've got to put out a new one. Get that entertainment, exertainment. What are they calling that?
Do you think that's a original Nintendo Switch 2 Direct level game though?
I kind of do.
It was a bestseller.
It was on that top 10 list for a while. I think up until recently it got pushed down. So
yeah, I'll give it to you.
I think it's there.
I love it. I love it. Okay. So it sounds like we're lobbing softball. It sounds like we're trying to get the ones that we think the other person's going to get right now. So I guess I'll save my crazy ones for later. Okay. Okay, this is one I don't know that I think it'll happen at the same time, but I also think it like has to be happening soon, so I'm going to throw it out there to like hedge my bets a little bit. I think a new Donkey Kong, like a new, like not a remake, not, it's going to be a fresh new Donkey Kong game is going to be announced.
I hope so, because I think Donkey Kong has only put out remakes in the last, what is it, like 13 years now?
Yeah, I mean, Jesus, I genuinely, I don't think there's been a new game since the Wii, right?
Yeah. I think well, no, there's Tropical Freeze, right? So Wii U.
You're right, that was originally on Wii U.
Yeah, but I mean, even that one, I think that's been like 13 years.
Yeah, something like close,
That was
right?
like a 2012 game, I want to say.
Yeah, so it's like, okay, we're overdue for sure. And there was that rumor that happened like way back, when I was at Loot Pots, that it's like they made a new internal team to make it was a offshoot of EAD was going to make like a new 3D Donkey Kong 64 kind of style game. And
which is what I would love. Like that's what I want more than anything.
Yeah, right? Like I mean, I think it makes sense for the same reasons that we laid out about Mario, right? Where it's like Donkey Kong, it's like they did the redesign. He's got the new section in the park. He's got a new movie coming out. Like they're trying to elevate Donkey Kong, I think, back to being his own like marquee character and not just like a Mario sidekick.
Mm-hmm.
And you want to get that game out when you can.
Mm-hmm. And the park's open in Japan already, and I think the Florida one's pretty close, right?
It opens this summer, I want to say. Yeah, I think so.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So that like, whole big park looks cool.
Yeah, the Epic Universe, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, it's like I just feel like I believe that rumor was true because it makes too much sense not to be. And if it was true, it was like 7 years ago. So say they had put like a year or two of pre-production on a game. It would make sense for if it was real. Around now would be the time that it would make sense to culminate into something.
Mm-hmm.
And what better time than now?
Yeah, and I really hope. I love the redesign for the Mario Kart.
I do too.
I think it's great. I'm just like, oh, I love this Donkey Kong. He's like, I don't know. It's got a great look for me.
He's like more reminiscent of the original design rather than like the like rare, like very 90s, remake.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, let me see. I think mine get a little crazy from here.
Okay, cool. Because I only have like one or two more like regular ones, I think, too. And then I got some. Well, I got some other regular ones, but I got some crazy ones I want to get into.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go with this bomb right here. I think there's gonna be a new Super Smash Bros.
What? You're crazy. Yeah. You're crazy.
Yep, I think there's gonna be a new Super Smash Bros.
You're crazy.
I don't know if Sakurai is involved with it at all.
I swear to God, I hope not. I hope not, for his sake.
For all we know, because he put out a video, right? On his YouTube channel, he put out videos, and I can't remember if he said. I know he's working on a new game,
right?
But I don't know if he confirmed if it was like something new, brand new. Or
I think he just
whatever.
said he was directing a new game, and I don't think he gave any other details. So it
it
literally could be Smash, but Jesus Christ, I hope not.
I kind of hope he's not working on Smash. I kind of want to see like a Smash without him, kind of see what happens there.
I want him to rest.
Like
he needs to stop. His hands don't even work anymore. He can't keep making Smash.
That's true. Yeah, like for sure. Like I want him to rest.
Let him put his sword down.
I also want to see kind of like a tuned down Smash a little bit. I mean, I love the character reveals as much as anybody else. I love that we have so many people that we can play in Ultimate, but I think for that series to go forward, I think they do need to kind of like refresh everything.
I think it needs a reboot.
Up until now too, for a while, like even on the Wii U, I felt like the moves were starting to feel a little stale with some of the characters. I'm like, oh, I think they could like refresh some of these things. Some of them feel a bit outdated or don't quite like capture enough of like the new history as much.
Yeah,
I think they can like rebalance that mix, because I think there's like fun historical stuff for each characters is fun to play with, but I think there's also some new stuff that they haven't really gotten a chance to work with.
Yeah, I do. And I think, like, to your point, the game already has so many characters and so much, like, more. I feel like it needs to scale back and pare back if it's going to feel fresh again, because we've already had Ultimate. It's like, how do you get beyond that other than just, like, continuing to just be like, who else can we... Master Chief now! It's like, who else can we get in that gets a rise out of you? And it's just like, I think that's going to have diminishing returns at a certain point,
Yeah, for sure. Yep. So I think there's going to be a new Smash. That's probably the biggest, wildest one that I've got.
That is a wild one. That is definitely a wild one. Okay. Oh, boy. All right, I got a couple more that I feel like are safe ones, and I got a couple that are crazy. I'll do a crazy one since you did a crazy one. I think that when you get into the, like, we're trying to prove third-party support of it all, right? I think they're going to pick a game that is, like, a very classically, like, this is a PC-ass PC game and show it running on Switch 2 to show off the mouse support.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And, like, what I mean by that is, like, something like a Civilization or like like a very like top down mouse and keyboard kind of game.
Say it. It's gonna be Diablo. Just kidding.
Could be. I mean,
it could be.
But you know what I mean, like something like that, like or like
yeah, for sure.
Not necessarily, but like a Tropico or like a whatever, like a isometric mouse and keyboard style experience. Or maybe even a MOBA, like I guess you could show like League of Legends or something like that,
Oh, yeah.
that could tie into the online functionality of it all. Who's to say? Again, not necessarily that game, but like it could be a MOBA. It could be a very like traditionally PC experience, and it'll be like, here's how you can use it like a mouse, and then like use your other Joy-Con, with the buttons mapped to it or whatever for your keyboard or some shit like that.
Yeah, I think that's exciting though. Like they could that leaves a lot of room for something like a Pokemon Unite 2, which got like pretty popular, awesome. I mean, they made it work with like the controllers,
And I think there's like a lot of
keyboard.
There's a lot of like games like something like Inscription or something like that where it's like you remember that game coming to PC and it's a big deal, and then it's like they need to figure out a controller interface for it to work on console, and it's like that could be an advantage that Switch has of like, oh, like games with that interface can kind of just come here more quickly, and
Yeah, it just shows up right away.
Yeah.
I like that. I am definitely following that with my next prediction. So, like I said earlier, and I also want to say, I think this prediction is kind of like, to me, it feels like an obvious one that I feel is going to like somehow miss a lot of people's lists. I think they're definitely going to show off that game that was play tested. I said earlier that I was in that play test.
Oh, right.
And that one, not only like it works with the controller, but I do think it will work with like mouse keyboard type of controls too. I think that's one that they can show off in that kind of vein. I mean, as far as like the info that's kind of out there about it, because I guess technically we're not supposed to share or whatever, it feels very Minecrafty, right?
Yeah.
Like it's a very Minecrafty type of game. And that's definitely like my impression as I played it too. So yeah, I think that game's going to show up. I honestly don't know what they'll call it. Right now, it's just called Nintendo Playtest. So yeah, keyboard mouse game. That's one that I think will kind of have that control scheme.
That's a really good one. I totally, I didn't think about that. I like that though. Okay. This one, I don't know if this one's like a safe one or if it's crazy, but it's maybe both. But I think that now for real is the time that we get the Wind Waker HD port.
Oh man.
Because why not? You got to have a new Zelda out for the new console. It's too early to do anything else.
That almost falls under crazy for me.
I
I
know,
feel
and it's
like
like it's so,
been
it's
so
like,
long.
is it so safe that it's crazy? I don't know, but
Yeah, I saw the post the other day that they added like all these Zelda games to Nintendo Music, and I was like, one of these is obviously not on Switch right now.
it's like
And it
son
was
of a
like the Wind
bitch.
Waker music was added on
Why
there.
wouldn't you guys just do it?
Yeah, just put it out, put it out. That's great. I love it. Yeah, I mean, it's been time to
Yeah, and
have Wind Waker.
it's been time, and there's always been like a, well, this other game got ported, or this. It's like there's never been a gap, and now it's like maybe this is it, right? And it's like you have like an even nicer version of it with Nintendo Switch 2. I don't know. It's probably
Yeah, and
crazy, but a man can
I'm
dream.
for it. Yeah, I'm for it. Let's see it.
Let's see it.
Mine is hardware related. My next one.
Okay.
I think we're gonna see a Nintendo keyboard. Like we saw the
Yeah.
kind of like mouse functionality for Joy-Con. I think they're gonna show off like their own kind of keyboard.
I hope so.
Don't know what'll be different about it, but I hope they make one.
I hope you're right. I think that's a great idea. It makes a lot of sense with the mouse rumors, and I think if that does end up being true, then it's like, again, it just opens up so many kinds of games to be on Switch.
Yeah, definitely.
I like that. And it does satisfy the like them having a dumb accessory thing that they love to that they love to
they
do.
need one.
You know, we need one.
Yeah, I mean we're gonna get RingCon 2, but they need another one, like something fresh.
Okay, I think this one's crazy, but I hope it's true, so I'm gonna say it. A smart delivery equivalent is revealed to make Nintendo Switch 1 releases like Metroid Prime 4 and Pokemon ZA Legends run better. And I think because there was a quote that came out of a recent investors conversation where they had confirmed that Metroid Prime 4 and Pokemon ZA were going to be Switch releases and not Switch 2 releases. And I think it was worded in a vague enough way where it could still be signaling that like they could be like a cross release, I guess, you know, like that could be the case. Especially with like translation and all that. It's like nuance can sometimes get lost. But I think that we had that rumor that there was a version of Breath of the Wild that was running at 4K 60 FPS. The idea that like, we talked about earlier, right? That like they are very concerned about continuity between Nintendo Switch and Nintendo Switch 2. They made it a point to say that they would be fully backwards compatible. I think if you can come out and be like, hey, so if you want to play, these games on your Nintendo Switch, that's great. They're going to be there. And like, that's what they were made for in mind. They're going to play great there. But if you get a Nintendo Switch 2, not only will you be able to play the new 3D Mario that's only on Switch 2, your Switch games will run even better. So that whole library that's coming over with you will now all run better with the power of Nintendo Switch 2. And like, that'll be the kind of like bullet point broken down explanation for, the whole NVIDIA AI super scaling thing that they've been talking about, right? Where it's like, yeah, like this is a thing that the hardware will do natively. It won't be a thing that you need to, pay for or like buy like a new version of the game you already own.
Yeah.
You'll be able to just take advantage of it on the new hardware. And that's like your incentive as an old user to upgrade.
Yeah. And I think that makes sense, especially because I know like Nintendo themselves, like, everything they work with is a much higher quality than whatever compressed version we always get by the end of it, because they're also like super compressors, like their file sizes are tiny by the time we're getting like the final game. So yeah, I think that makes sense. I think they already have Breath of the Wild in 4K for sure, because that's probably like how they made it.
and it's like
compress it down.
Nintendo being Nintendo, it wouldn't be crazy to see them charge for a new boxed version of an updated game. But I do think that like when you're thinking about the whole like we're very concerned about value and like that to me seems like such an easy slam dunk to be like, hey, if for no other reason, the reason to upgrade is that the things run better on this new hardware.
Yeah, and I do kind of hope there's like a little bit of their having done like some market research too, because I do think like the PS5, Xbox series, all those consoles, like they're strong and everything, but I think their games have also been kind of held back, kind of being on both those new consoles and their previous gen consoles too. So I think I don't know. To me, I kind of hope Nintendo avoids like too many like cross-platform releases and instead just
Yeah.
kind of goes for like, here's this new thing that you can only get on this new console. Because I think that also like incentivizes their audience to kind of like buy the new console. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see like how they play that because there's always that like 1 to 2 year period where they're like, we're still, supporting the old hardware. And it's like, it's going to be
Hmm.
interesting to see how that works because like if you have a smart delivery type system like I'm talking about, I think it makes it a lot easier because then it's just like you just keep marketing the Nintendo Switch games and it's like, yeah, and it runs better on Switch too. Great. The
Yeah,
same way that
awesome.
like when Elden Ring came out, nobody was sitting there thinking about the fact that it was a PlayStation 4 game. They were just like playing it on their PlayStation 5, right? Or if
Yeah,
you were playing it on Xbox, it's like it was literally running like it was a current gen game because of smart delivery.
for sure. Yeah. Okay, my next one. Is it my turn again? I
Yep.
think so. Okay. My next one is probably my most out of left field one, and
Okay.
I'm here for it. Mario Paint 2. They're showing
I
us
don't think
Mario
that's
Paint 2.
crazy. I don't think that's
You
crazy at all.
don't?
I think you're totally onto something with that. I think the mouse and key like
Yeah,
yeah.
it feels like it's time to me. Just like seeing like them finally after all these years, like do something with their music, and just like imagine them just like giving us a huge library of sounds now for them, and yeah, I don't know. It feels like it's time for a Mario Paint 2, especially it's just like the weirdest out of left field callback for them. In terms of like, I don't know, I feel like the Switch probably has like a pretty big, like new, more recent audience, but like all that, all the younger kids, they have parents, who probably spoke legends of this. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think with like the whole like online sharing culture, right? Like I could
Oh,
see
yeah.
Paint being like a really great tool for that.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's cool. I like that. Okay. Hmm. So I have a couple that are like they're two pronged, and it's like it's like the same prediction but with a different game in mind, and it's like
Yeah.
I don't know where to like lean in. Okay. This is another I got another hardware one. I'll get this out of the way while I think about these. Okay. So I'm gonna say that the C button rumors that we've talked about are true, and that button controls a display function of some kind, and that is either how you can use kind of like the Wii U, like you're broadcasting to another screen to have like a dual screen experience, or that you might be able to use it to like broadcast to a screen without the dock, and I think
Hmm.
it'll use that functionality somehow.
I thought it was totally going to be a cross button. You click it and you cross over to Animal Crossing, right? Like it's just gonna. Yeah, no, I'm kidding. Okay. Um, my next one, you actually kind of mentioned this game, but I'm gonna make it one of my predictions here. I think the Switch 2, I think Nintendo's kind of gonna show off the new power for it.
Mhm.
Like, it's not the biggest thing for them, but I do think they're starting to feel that like they're falling behind in terms of what games are getting. So I think they're gonna show off Elden Ring, a trailer
Nice.
for
That
Elden
was one
Ring.
of that was one of mine. That was one of the ones I
Yeah.
had on that list for sure.
Yeah, because I mean, huge game, obviously, super popular. They've had stuff go on with what's it called before? Why can't I think of the name of
FromSoft?
the FromSoft? Yeah, they've had their games on there before, so I think Elden Ring's the next big hit to make it there.
I think that makes a ton of sense. Um okay, I'm going to throw my other one that I had on the 50-50 on that one. I'm going to say it's Red Dead Redemption 2 is one of the other
Ooh,
third party games that they're going to support. Right, it's like Rockstar had LA Noire as an early port on the last console.
Mhm.
I wouldn't be surprised to see them do something similar this time around. Red Dead Redemption 2 seems like a good one, right? Red Dead 1 just came to Switch. The idea that 2 could now come to the Switch too makes a lot of sense. And just earlier today, it might have been yesterday now, I saw there was a quote from the head of 2K that was saying that they're planning on supporting Switch 2 because, very much like Nintendo consoles aren't just for kids anymore. Like there's hunger for more mature rated games on those platforms. So we want to be there to take advantage of it. So yeah, I think Red Dead Redemption 2 comes.
Yeah, I agree. And speaking of mature games, I think we're getting Resident Evil remakes.
Oh yeah, that's cool. That's a great one.
Capcom always pretty supportive of Nintendo. So yeah, Resident Evil, the remakes, all the fresh ones, and properly on the console. None of this cloud gaming nonsense that we've gotten with the other.
Yeah. I think that makes a lot of sense. Okay, my next one is Nintendo DS games come to Nintendo Switch Online. I think this ties into the rumor about the C button stuff that like the dual display thing is like in part to enable you to play games that have the dual screen experience on DS, 3DS, and Wii U on Switch 2. Yeah, here we go. Right? Why not?
Yeah,
we haven't brought a new console to NSO in quite some time.
Yeah, for sure. Man, I was torn. Okay.
Well, you got another one in that same vein?
I mean, I did, but I was torn between that or another third party. But I was like, maybe
this is your last one.
GameCube, but
this is the last one, so make it a good one.
I know. I guess I get a separate one for my price one, right? Because you all made price predictions.
Yeah. You get a fresh one for that.
Okay, cool. You know what? I'm going with it. GameCube. I
think
they're doing GameCube.
This was one of the ones I had hedged. I also had GameCube on that list. I think that also makes a ton of sense. But I feel like DS is maybe a little more likely just because of the dual screen rumors. I think GameCube will probably come maybe after that.
Yeah. And I feel like I don't know. I always felt like there's something about the GameCube stuff that was just like, I don't know. Something gives me the vibe Nintendo's been having trouble emulating that stuff in more, I don't know.
Like
It feels like it's just been a difficult console for them to handle.
I see that. All right, my last one is I think there's going to be a new Maker game. I'm saying just a new Maker game because I don't think it necessarily has to be Mario Maker. I don't know how likely I think this one is, but I think it's in the same vein as the Mario Paint one. It's like this is a thing I could see being like a very good way to show that off of like, oh, like here's us using it in Mario Maker, and it could be that kind of thing. We'll see.
Yeah, that sounds good. I am always down for a new Maker game.
Yeah, I feel like the first one was so good, and the second one like really just like kind of failed to recapture the magic. I would love to see them get it right.
I think it was like a mix of like just like not having the touch screen controls, and then also kind of like taking away all the amiibo stuff.
Yeah,
like that was, I don't know, it's just like that perfect amount of quirky magic that it needed.
Yeah, and I feel like to your point, like it was a weird one where the Wii U interface really was kind of better, and it's like this could be a good way to kind of like bridge that gap a little bit.
Yeah, that's such a rare thing too. I feel like there's always games on each console where I'm like, this belonged here. Like this was made for this console.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So the other thing I wanted to just get you to weigh in on here was that there was another update from Furukawa who was saying that the Nintendo Switch price point is going to like consider the affordability that like customers expect. In that same interview, I've seen a quote that's been pulled and translated about him saying that the Switch, they didn't have a planned price cut in mind for that, which I think is interesting because is that true, or is that them wanting to not say that right now? Well, there's who's to say?
I mean,
but
I I guess in terms of that, I think like the leading prediction, at least in my head, or at least like the leading thought behind that is just like a lot of places did get hit with like a price increase in the Switch. Like Japan got a price
Yeah.
increase and that sort of stuff, just with like inflation happening. And obviously the yen, Japanese yen, like really dropped the last year. And for us, I think a lot of people feel that was represented in us not having a price cut at all
Hmm.
because the price never got cut. That was probably our price cut, just inflation,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
That's a good point.
So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I guess I'll tell you my prediction as far as like Switch 2 price goes. I honestly think it's going to be like 400, the 399,
Yeah.
99 realm, mostly because if they're I think they have to price it kind of above the OLED. I don't know how much they drop the price of the OLED with the current situation. And then I don't know. I mean, I don't pretend to know everything about politics or the economy and that sort of thing. And I'm just like, who knows what this tariff thing is going to do,
Yeah.
right?
Very
With
much so.
stuff. So for me, I'm feeling like it leans more toward that price point, which I don't know. I think it's fair to think that's like going to be the affordable
I think that's
view,
still a
you
very
know?
affordable price point, right? Like that's
Yeah.
like it's still $100 less than the competition. It's $50 more than the current gen version of the OLED. It's like that doesn't. I don't think that's a
Mhm.
bad price point at all.
Yeah, so I think it's going to be around there. And even like, if you look at like the Steam Deck and that sort of thing, it's still kind of like beating that range,
Yeah.
at least if you were, looking at the OLED models of the Steam Deck. So,
Yeah. Definitely.
um, yeah.
So then, give me a release week. What week you think it comes
Ooh.
out? So I said it would come out the second week of September. Steve said the first. Max said it would be the week of the 18th in August.
Ooh, man, this is
You have the benefit now of like there's this date.
I'm going earlier than all
Yeah.
of you too. I think it's going to be the first week of July.
I would have said earlier if I had known about this event, I think. But yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
I dig it though. I think that makes sense based on what we're seeing here. April,
Well,
right? Like
well, let me see. Let me see. I guess the date that I had in mind. No, I'd say second week of July.
okay. We'll
Yeah,
lock it in.
second
Second
week
week
of
of July.
July. Yeah, because I think I looked at the calendar earlier and it was like 4th of July weekend. Well, I don't know. I guess that would be fine. Who knows? I'm good. Second week. Lock me in.
All right.
Second week.
You're locked in. All right, and then I want to close things out with a question in the question block. This one came over on Patreon from one of our Patreon producers, Wakahula, who wrote in and said, "Welcome back, Chewy. Are you going to get the Nintendo Switch day one, or are you going to wait and see? And which franchise are you most excited to see a new game of?" I
Yes.
think I know the answer to
I
the
mean-
second one. I feel like I have an idea.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Zelda, right?
I'll start. I mean, Golden Sun, obviously.
Obviously, yes, of course.
Obviously. I mean, please bring that. No, yeah, it's Animal Crossing, of course.
Of course.
I think more than ever lately, I've just been like, yeah, I could use a new Animal Crossing because I was actually
Yeah.
pretty satiated the last, since New Horizons. I've been like,
But you're
yeah,
like,
that was a great time.
new age
Yeah,
of terror.
yeah.
It's time for a new Animal Crossing game.
I know it's time when I start logging in. The time in between me logging in gets longer and longer, and when I do, I'm like less and less interested, and
Mhm.
I'm just like, I feel like I've been here, done that. Let's get a new one in here. So that's been my feeling lately with Animal Crossing.
Yeah, I haven't logged
It'll
in any
likely,
very long time. I'm very much ready for a new one.
yeah. So like my interests in the past game typically go back up once a new one is announced too, because I'm like, oh, I better just like finish out the things I was doing,
Yeah.
and then say my proper goodbye and be like, okay, going to the new place. So yeah, definitely that. And then what was the first question again? I'm totally losing it.
Are you gonna get a Switch day one, or are you gonna wait?
Oh, maybe I'll wait a year or two. No, yeah, no, it's gonna be very likely a day one purchase for me.
Yeah, who we kidding? You're gonna get it day one. You're gonna get
Yeah.
2 of them. You crazy person.
2, maybe not 2. If they make an Animal Crossing one, then
Right.
yeah, probably.
There you go. You're already negotiating.
But yeah, I'm already at that stage. Yeah, the Switch, funny enough, was the first Nintendo console I bought day one, which is like, I don't know. I think back and I'm like, huh, I don't think I ever bought a Nintendo console day one.
You know, it was mine too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think that mostly has to do with me not having money or availability, because I had the money for a Wii and couldn't find a Wii at launch. And Wii U, it was the opposite, where I just didn't have any money, even though there were, like, every time you went into a store, you could get one.
Oh, I know, for sure. For me, it's always been like, I'll see how the hardware holds up. And then after years of that, I was just like, it's Nintendo. They put out pretty solid pieces of hardware like day one, so...
Yeah. I like being an early adopter now. The last generation, I got. Well, I guess I got a PlayStation 4 day and date as well. That was, I think, the first time I had ever done that. And then ever since then, every new console I bought day one. And I'm like, I like being an early adopter. It's nice.
Mm-hmm. And secretly, like, the reason I would kind of want to get it day one is my worst case scenario is they like way overprice this thing, like 500 or something, and then they do kind of that same thing they did with the 3DS, where they're like,
you're the early adopter.
All of the early adopters get all of these games for free, and I'm just like, if they did that again, yeah, cool, I'm in.
Also, not to put too fine a point on it, but you made the point about like the tariffs and everything, and it's like, well, if it comes out and it's like prior to that being a problem with Japan, it's like, you're gonna want to get it before the price goes up, right? So
yeah, for sure. Yeah. So it could go that way, but I hope it goes the other way, where it's just like, oh yeah, sorry guys, we totally overpriced this thing. Here's some free games for you guys, because my brother has a 3DS with all of those like early adopter games,
the ambassador games.
Yeah, the ambassador ones, and I'm so jealous of it. I'm like, I kind of want to steal it from him every once in a while.
It's so annoying.
Yeah. And he also got that cool the smaller new 3DS, the not XL.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember that.
That one with the changing faceplates. I also want to steal that from him. That's a good find.
You could probably take it now. He's not gonna miss it. It's old tech.
I want to say he's a funny little collector these days. He bought like a couple of the Switch Lights just to frame them.
That's cool.
Like, yeah, and I was like, this looks cool. I want to do that. Yeah, he does a lot of cool things with his hardware.
I want to do that with. I want to eventually have. You can see behind me. I have a Game Boy, the original Game Boy
I was
frame.
admiring that the whole time.
It's really nice. I really want to get every one of the Game Boy like models and put them in like some kind of shadow box display.
That's so dangerous for me, because then I start thinking like, oh, what if I start getting into the color variations and all the themed ones? And I'm just like,
yeah, that's correct. That is exactly what I want to do.
It's a slippery slope for me.
There's not that many of them, which is like why I'm like, those are like the types of things I'm most like, I get collector brain with, because it was like with the amiibo, right? It's like, oh, but there's like a finite, like there will be a finite number of them. I just have to buy every Smash one that comes out, and then I'll have a full collection. And here I am, almost a decade later, still doing it like a psychopath. But
they're
here
still
we are.
Coming out.
Awesome, man. Well, I have a bunch of other questions I would love to jump into with you, but we're getting near the end here, so we'll have to save it for the next time you're on the show, which will be soon. We'll have you back on.
Yeah, I'm going to be here all the time now.
Yeah, it's going to be great. So thank you to Wakahula for writing in, and thank you all so much for tuning into another episode of Nintendo Noise. And I want to extend a very special thank you to our Patreon producers for the month of February. They are, of course, Arnold J. Rimmer, Christopher Valenz, Gabriel Hasselmeyer, a.k.a. Sobe, Project Julian, Susan Still Likes Cats and Also Boobies, Voodoo Vic, Ty the Dude, and Wakahula. Thank you all so much for your support over on patreon.com/flipscreen Screen Games. Y'all the realest of the real, and we greatly appreciate your support of this and all of our sister shows. Remember, if you want to let us know what you thought about this week's episode of Nintendo Noise, you can let us know in the comments down below or visit flipscreen.games to drop us a line. If you're watching the show on YouTube, please remember to give this episode a like, share it with a friend, and click the notification bell so you never miss an episode. If you're an audio listener, please take a second to give us a review wherever you get your podcasts. It really helps the show get circulated. For the crew, I've been Pete, he's been Chewy. We'll see you next week!
Pet the kitty.
There he is.